You too, and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome back once again to the weekly guided meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 10th of October, 2023. We'd like to extend a great welcome to all new viewers to this channel. It's certainly good to see all of you once again healthily on this online platform. We are very grateful to have with us Bhante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh, conduct this weekly session since 2020. Bhante was ordained under the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Santiforce Monastery in Johor in 2008. This week, we are continuing on the subject on gratitude, and maybe next week we'll be starting on the 10 paramis. Bhante will be leading the homage to Buddha and taking a 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now, let's compose our mind, put our palms together, and welcome Bhante. Over to you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you, Terence. We start off with paying respects to the Buddha by bowing 3 times. First bow, second bow, third bow. And do the homage chant. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipātā vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchācārā vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Surameraya majjapamadatthāna vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so welcome back everyone. This is the second lesson on gratitude suggested by Roy, who is still not here, so he has to watch the live stream version. So this is like an informal session. Anybody can actually suggest a topic, so we can sort of like put it out to discuss, or I do my sharing, and we have some Q&A, and we can sort of learn together. So we've gone through on this gratitude. If you want to know the previous lesson, you can check out this MSBS live stream on Facebook. It's recorded there. So I think I shall continue to the Sigala Sutta. So we basically covered on gratitude of parents, the different sort of roles, different interpersonal relations in the Sigala Sutta. Okay, so we've already covered this, how the child should take care of the parents, parents to the child, right? And the next one, pupil to teacher, teacher to pupil. Yeah, then husband to wife, wife to husband, and to friends, and to these boss and employees. So we covered here last week. So all these we call them these basic obligations, duties and responsibilities. So this is like the least we can do to another person, right? To the person we care of, but the highest kind of repayment is actually to help the person grow spiritually, to turn them from unwholesome to wholesome. So that's the highest way of paying them back. Okay, so now we talk about religious teacher and student. So very relevant for today's class. Okay, so this one, in 5 ways, young householder should a householder minister to ascetics and Brahmins as the zenith. Okay, by lovable deeds, lovable words, lovable thoughts, keeping open house to them, supplying their material needs. Yeah, so I think we covered that last week also, right? Yeah, so okay, basically it's a two-way kind of relationship, like any kind of relationship. So if a student or religious devotee is kind and open, then the teacher will also be so-called generous or kind enough. He will reciprocate to give the teaching. So interestingly, in the monastic rules, the monks or the sangha, monks or nuns, we cannot teach the Dhamma, we cannot share or teach the Dhamma to someone who is not respectful, to someone who didn't invite, didn't request, shows disrespect, then we have the right not to teach them. Right? It is not because we are selfish, but this is because we protect the Dhamma, and because Dhamma is priceless and Dhamma is invaluable. So we're actually protecting this value of the Dhamma. So if Dhamma is like treated in disrespect, like I don't know, maybe you go and teach Dhamma to people who are harsh, they won't listen to you. Right? Or teach someone who is not ready, not receptive, it's like 1 ear in and 1 ear out. So it becomes like devaluing the Dhamma, and it's not just devaluing the Dhamma, but it's also harmful to the listener. So the listener who is not ready, it gives a psychological kind of impression that this kind of teachings is useless for them. So next time, when they receive the same teaching, they will have this aversion. They are not receptive to this message anymore. So that's why it's important to wait at the right time, or the listener has to be ready before the teacher sort of shares the Dhamma. Okay, Roy is here. Welcome. Okay, next slide. Okay, so for the religious teacher, we'll have to show in return the devotee these few things. Restrain them from evil, persuade them to do good. I think this is very standard in most religions, right? Ask a person to do good, avoid all harmful actions. They love him with a kind heart, right? So they practice kindness. They make him hear what he has not heard. So basically teaching, right? So like we do this kind of sharing or discussions. Some of you may heard this before, some of you have not heard this before. So if you have not heard this before, then you learn something. If you have heard this before, then you can ask questions to find out new information. So it's we'll be very glad to share. They clarify what he has already heard. Right, so this is the asking questions part. They point out the path to a heavenly state. So basically show you the way to a more wholesome state of mind. So if, let's say, even if you don't reach Nibbana, at least you have a higher realm, human or above, right? Human or heaven kind of rebirth. So that's the basic kind of relationship, two-way relationship. So of course the monastics, right, the religious teachers can't survive without the food or support of the layperson. So it's a two-way relationship. And interestingly, it's been designed intentionally by the Buddha. There was once, at one point of time, the monks were like very self-sufficient. They have a retreat in the forest, in a cave. They can actually pluck the fruits from the trees, have enough to eat. Even when I was having the Tudong trip in Thailand, we don't need to worry there's no food at all. The forest is basically like a market. All the veggies is growing everywhere, the plants are growing everywhere, and basically you can, even if the monks can't pluck the leaves themselves, they can get a samaneira to pluck the leaves. Right, a novice monk or layperson sort of attending to the monk, they can actually pluck the leaves, and it's like a whole section of like vegetables, so they can just cook the meal and have a lot of veggies. So you can't starve to death in the forest. So I don't know why in the army there is survival course, and they kill a chicken. Kill a chicken in the jungle, survival training. It's like, where can you get a chicken in the jungle? But anyway, so that's the idea, and the Buddha knew that at that time in the past there wasn't social media. So if the Buddha want to make his presence known, want to make his teaching known, the disciples and the Buddha himself have to make their presence known physically. So they need to go for the alms round. So they need to take their bowl and go house to house and show their presence. So that was how it's done in the past, and it was deliberately done in that way. So the Buddha made a rule. He told the monks, you have to go for alms round. You can't sort of hide in the forest and eat from the fallen fruits and survive on your own. So you need to be dependent on the lay devotee, dependent on the supporters. Right, so that's the context. Okay, any questions at this point of time before I move on? This is like the end of this particular sutta. There's a few more suttas that we talk about gratitude. Okay, if not, then we move on.
One thing.
Yes, Roy, yep.
I got a question on that question, the previous slide, whereby, very quick one. So let's say, there are Thai forest traditional, Thai forest Theravada traditional monks, right? They went deep into the forest, right? Then they are not able to they're not able to do alms round. Right? In that case, they have to go and pluck the foods to eat, right? In this case.
Okay, yeah. So actually, plucking the fruits is against the rule. So you make a very good point, because nowadays the Tudong or the hiking kind of movement is a new movement, it's a new practice. So in the past, when the Buddha meant by entering the wilderness, it was quite specific. It's like a certain distance away from a village, so that the villagers won't disturb you. They won't disturb the monk in their practice, and it's walking distance enough for them to go for the alms round. So they are not supposed to hike too deep in the forest and sort of like like in the army, yeah. So they're not supposed to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the Buddha's time, they were traveling on the main pathways, main pathways. But nowadays, some of the Tudong monks, they were just like bashing through the lalangs and everything. So it's very different.
Okay. Thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. All right, next slide. Okay, so the next sutta we're going to talk about is gratitude, how to repay the gratitude to our teacher. So now I'm the student also. So the teacher would be the Buddha himself, and this is taken from the last days of the Buddha. When the Buddha was about to pass away, what was his last words or final instructions? So one of them is this incident. So the Blessed One spoke to the Venerable Ananda, saying, Ananda, the twin sala trees are in full bloom. Though it is not the season of flowering, and the blossoms rain upon the body of the Tathagata, and drop and scatter, and are strewn upon it in worship of the Tathagata. So basically, there's some unnatural event going on when the season was not ready for the trees to bloom those flowers, but yet it's blooming and falling all over the place. Okay, next. So this is the doing of heavenly beings. So heavenly beings, not only they make the physical flowers bloom, but they also throw down heavenly flowers. Okay, and celestial coral flowers and heavenly sandalwood powder from the sky rain down upon the body of the Tathagata, which is the Buddha, and drop and scatter, and are strewn upon it in worship of the Tathagata. And the sound of heavenly voices and heavenly instruments makes music in the air out of reverence for the Tathagata. So everyone has their ways of showing respect. So the heavenly beings also they play music, they sing songs, and they offer flowers, do flower offering, flower and sandalwood powder. So these are like the offerings done by heavenly beings. And what do you think? Do you think these are good offerings done to the Buddha? How many of you offer flowers to the... Do you have altar at home? Do you offer flowers and sandalwood? Some people do, Okay, alright, so let's move on to the next slide, see what the Buddha says. Yet it is not thus, Ananda, that the Tathagata is respected, venerated, esteemed, worshipped, and honored in the highest degree. But Ananda, whatever bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, that means monks or nuns, laymen or laywomen, abides by the Dhamma, lives uprightly in the Dhamma, walks in the way of the Dhamma, it is by such a one that the Tathagata is respected, venerated, esteemed, worshipped, and honored in the highest degree. So the Buddha was very consistent throughout his entire life, not just his dying moment, that he wants his disciples to show the highest respect to him by practicing, applying and practicing his teachings. So that's his wish actually. So it's not about the physical offerings. It's a nice gesture. You can offer incense, perfume, and everything, but that's not the Buddha. That's not what the Buddha wanted, because all these things are impermanent. Right. So nowadays, the modern offerings that we do to the altars, we normally encourage people to do the reflection. So if a person want to offer flowers, they must know the intention of offering the flowers is to reflect on impermanence, because the flowers will wilt. From fresh flowers wilt and become becomes something else. So a devotee that offers things on the altar needs to know what they're offering, what's the significance, what's the meaning behind it, and that reflection is actually part of practicing the Dhamma. Right, so I'm not against these kind of offerings, but the idea is to practice the Dhamma. So anything that is goes along with the Noble Eightfold Path, then that is actually practicing the Dhamma. Alright, so not just this incident, I remember there's another incident, this Wakali, this Venerable Wakali. So he's about to, I'm not sure whether he's about to pass away, but he's actually very sick, very ill. He had his terminal illness, very ill, cannot get up from the seat. So he's the monk that has great faith in the Buddha, has lots of faith in the Buddha, but somehow doesn't apply the Buddha's teaching. So this Venerable Vakali, very sick, and the Buddha came to his room. Because he cannot get up. So the Buddha entered his room, and normally it's the protocol for a disciple to pay respect to the teacher. So he's struggling to get up, trying to pay respect to the Buddha. So the Buddha told him, enough Vakali, stop. You don't have to get up. And he mentions that you don't have to purposely see the Buddha's body. And he encourages this Wakali to see the Dhamma instead. If you're able to see the Dhamma, then you're able to see the Buddha. So that's the Buddha's message. So he was very consistent throughout his whole life. I remember another incident, but I do not know which sutta it's from. This one is about the Buddha was returning from another place. So when he sort of came to this particular town, particular monastery, so all the other monks were like welcoming him, presented him with lots of gifts, lots of offerings. Only one monk didn't show up. And the other monks were they go and powtow to the Buddha and told the Buddha, hey, this certain monk didn't come and pay respect to you. Alright, so the Buddha was like, oh really? Then asked him to come here. So the other monk was informed by the other monks to come and see the Buddha. And the Buddha asked him, is it true that you do not wish to come and sort of pay respects and give offerings? And the monk said, yeah, true. And the Buddha was asking the monk, what were you doing then? So the monk was replied, he mentioned that he's showing his highest respect by practicing very hard, meditating very hard. And the Buddha praised the monk, said, yes, this is the highest respect. The Buddha is not really interested in the kind of offerings and stuff like that. Okay, so that's my end of the sharing. Very early today because not many slides remaining. We can open the ground to Q&A. And maybe if you all have anything to ask, maybe I add on in line with this World Mental Health Day. Then I can share maybe one or two stories regarding gratitude or maybe wholesome mental states and mental health. So I think one of the or Buddhism in general, the teaching is to overcome mental suffering. So this is very directly involved with mental health actually. But one or two striking stories come from these stories of the Therigatha, two nuns actually, two enlightened nuns. So before they were enlightened, oh, there's a last slide on the Mangala Sutta. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, then you can show the last slide. Okay, so this is more or less like a summary. Mangala Sutta. We normally chant this also. This I think very repetitive of the Sigala Sutta. Paying homage to those worthy of homage, supporting one's parents, assisting one's wife and children, covered in the Sigala Sutta, assistance to one's relatives, respect, humility, gratitude. So all these are part of the highest blessings, part of the Mangala Sutta. Okay, so now I shall continue the story, the two stories. This one of them is this Venerable Kisa Gautami. So according to the story, it's that you heard of the story of the mustard seed before? Story of the mustard seed. Who haven't heard before the story of the mustard seed? Okay, so some of you haven't heard before. Okay, so there's a story of this woman. She had a newborn child, and the child died. Then she cannot take it. Then she went mad. So she's like running around like semi-naked, and she came across the Buddha, or rather nobody at that time able to help her. So one day she managed to come across the Buddha, and she's asking help from the Buddha, how to save a child. But the child already died, but she's asking how to save a child. So the Buddha knew that she's not in the right frame of mind. Whatever he teach, cannot get into her. The mind cannot accept the fact that the child passed away. So the Buddha said, okay, first you need to find me a mustard seed. But this mustard seed must come from a house, from a family that doesn't have anybody that passed away before. So that's the condition. You need to find a mustard seed from a household, but that household must not have any family members that have passed away before. So that's the condition. So she was so eager to want to save a child, so she was carrying the dead baby, the dead child, and running around from house to house and asking for mustard seed. So every time she knocked on the door, she gets someone to respond, and she was asking, can I get a mustard seed? Then the family in the household, out of pity for her, and then took out mustard seed. But then she asked, did anyone in your family have ever passed away before? Did you have anyone in your family that passed away? Then of course they will say yes. Of course, last time they live in probably big families, they stay together, right? So they have someone that passed away. Could be their grandparents, maybe someone, their relatives that passed away. So okay, so she can't accept the mustard seed. And then she went to another house, asked the same thing, got the same response. So house after house and house after house. Then eventually she got the message. She got the message. Somebody will eventually die. Death is certain, right? So she eventually buried, put a child in the charnel ground, or buried the child, and then went to see the Buddha. And then told the Buddha what happened. She doesn't need a cure anymore. She accepted that the child is dead. There's no way to bring the child back. So the Buddha gave her some teachings. She gained stream entry from the first discourse by the Buddha, and she requested to be ordained as a nun. Right, so after she went forth, she ordained, and eventually she became an arahant, fully enlightened being. So actually in Buddhism, there's no such thing as incurable mental condition, supposedly. So probably different approach aside from the Western kind of treatment. So in Buddhism, it's more finding the root causes, the expectation, what are people clinging on to. So like for the case of that lady, she was clinging on to the child, lots of attachment to the child. So once she's able to let go, then all the mental sufferings slowly kind of disappear. So that's the first case study. And the second case study is this Venerable Patachara. So Venerable Patachara is the worst situation than this Venerable Kisa Gautami. So this Patachara was, how do you call it, already married, had a child, and was in labor, sort of like preparing to give birth to another child. So what happened was, she asked her husband to maybe prepare some firewood for her. It's getting cold, so the husband went out to the forest to chop some of this wood preparation for her to give birth. And what happened was the husband was bitten by a poisonous snake and he died. Died in the forest while she was heavily pregnant, trying to give birth. Her husband never returned, so she has to give birth on her own. So she managed to give birth, right, with the newborn child, and when she's strong enough, she went out to the woods to find her husband and found that her husband is dead. So, very upset, very distraught, so she decided to go back to her parents' place. Back to her family, her parents' place. So she had to carry both children, or rather, carry one newborn child and a young toddler that's able to walk. So both children, bring them to this parents' place. But at that time it was raining heavily. So she has to brave through the rain, and that rain sort of like caused like flash flood. So it created like a mini river or something. So she had to try to cross this river, but she's unable to carry both children at the same time to cross the river. So she decided to ask the toddler to stay put at one end of the river. She carried the newborn child first across the river before coming back to pick up the toddler. So that was her plan. So she asked the toddler to stay, and she carried this newborn child with her across to the other bank to a drier spot and left the child there. And she decided to go back and retrieve the toddler. So while doing so, when she was about to step into the water, or she stepped in the water, there's an eagle who came and snatched the toddler, pick up the toddler, and she was trying to wave and stop the eagle, but to no avail. The eagle able to carry the toddler and gone. Not the toddler, the newborn child, and the newborn child is gone. And across the other bank, the toddler seeing the mother waving, waving. Actually, the mother stopping the eagle. But the toddler thought, the mother calling me, right? So the toddler also tried to cross the river and drown. Step in the river, drown. So both children died. Husband died, both children died. So she was very devastated. Her family died, and decided to, let's go back to her parents' place. And when she go back to her parents' place, the house, the entire family, the house was being destroyed by that heavy rain. Right? Yeah, I'm not sure what's the version. Maybe struck by lightning, or the flood that killed everyone in the family. So the entire family died. So she's alone. So she also went mad. So she was also running around crazy, and eventually she met the Buddha, and the Buddha managed to calm her down, and eventually she also ordained and eventually got enlightened. So that's the two stories. So a lot of times we cling onto something, possessions onto something. So that's why in our practice, in our routine, we try to slowly condition ourselves. Everything go through birth, aging, sickness, death, birth, aging, sickness, and death. So it's a small step, right? Slow conditioning to make us accept the reality. Everything goes through birth, aging, sickness, and death. And when our expectations is like lowered, then it's easier to be grateful, no? Or to be appreciative of simple things in life. If we have lots of expectation or high expectations, then a bit hard to be appreciative of smaller things. Really grateful, appreciative of those fine things, finer things in life. Alright, so that's my short sharing. Let's open to the ground. Anything anybody want to discuss or share anything? No questions?
Ante, just now you talk about the mustard seed story. That
Okay.
one I heard it the Mahayana side. Is this
Okay.
actually from the Mahayana Sutta or Theravada?
Yeah, both also have, I think.
Or
Yeah.
the both also have this version. I
Yep.
see. Thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. So the Mahayana, these agamas, they should contain most of the Theravada suttas or the similar versions of Theravada suttas. And the agamas is one small part of their Tripitaka. Yeah? So they have other sutras that are not found in the Theravada Tipitaka. So the Theravada suttas alone, when it's sort of first written down, it was believed when you compile all the voluminous text together, it can pile up to the height of 7 elephants. So that's for Theravada. So imagine Theravada suttas, the scriptures is only one fraction of the Mahayana sutras. Imagine Mahayana sutras is don't know how many times more of the Theravada scriptures. So imagine journey to the west. This poor Tang San Zhang, this poor Xuan Zhang, how he's able to carry all the scriptures back. Okay, anyone else want to ask questions? Yes, Terence.
Hey, Bante, the Tan Sang Chan didn't carry he only carried the Theravada one back, right? Alanda.
How he carry back, I do not know, but because it's an official envoy, so maybe the Chinese emperor might send many caravans to pick up the scriptures.
Because the Mahayana wasn't developed then, right? The
already
school
developed. Yeah,
was
so
already
the Nalanda
fabricated.
University was promoting Mahayana kind of teachings. So he went there, learned the Sanskrit language, and if I'm not wrong, he managed to debate and win over all the other Indian scholars. So a Chinese guy, Chinese monk went over, learned the Sanskrit, their Indian language, and debated and won all the other Indian scholar monks. And because he's able to do that, so he was supposedly his credentials, right? He's proficient in translating all these scriptures into Chinese, into the Chinese language.
But the initial Mahayana wasn't so fast, the teaching, right? It's only
I would believe it will develop over time, but most of the so-called scriptures should be developed in the fourth Buddhist council. Fourth Buddhist council, yeah.
Okay, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no issues, then we give ourselves a 5-minute break. Then we can come back for the guided meditation. So see you all later. Okay, while waiting for the rest, anyone here has anything you all want to bring up?
Thank you. Can I just ask, just want to comment about the monk meditating hard as the highest way to pay respect to the Buddha. I'm just thinking about this. In terms of working hard, we know working hard, long hours, very tiring over time. Studying hard, also long hours, can be tiring over time. Meditating hard can be long hours. Is it considered also it's a form of physical exertion or exhaustions at the end that the mind trying to overcome? This is considered meditating hard? Because what's the usual perception on this?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Right? So there's actually a difference between the middle way and moderation. Yeah, so the middle way is actually this Noble Eightfold Path, and one of them is this right mindfulness. So a person doesn't need to be like seated in full lotus posture, and it's considered meditating hard. So as long as a person, they have the right thought, they're contemplating on impermanence in whatever they're doing, they can be even paying respects to the Buddha while practicing mindfulness. So that is actually practicing already. So that's the we call it middle way. So moderation, on the other hand, a person like some of the disciples of the Buddha, I would say they can be extreme, but yet they achieve enlightenment. Like some of the monks, like this Venerable Anuruddha, he got blind when practicing. He practiced too hard, don't sleep, and he got blind. Yeah, so he overdo it. He got blind, but he still got enlightened. So the moderation part is up to individual to balance it out themselves. So it's about how much they understand the middle path also lah. Yeah. So initially, maybe some people they still cannot grasp the middle path, so they use external means of exertion. So they exert too hard, then until closer to the end, then they realize the middle path. Like even for Venerable Ananda, he was practicing too hard. He didn't reach enlightenment until the last moment. He lie down on the bed. Before he lie down, then he got enlightened. Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, anyone else? If not, we are going to start. Okay, so we can start the guided meditation. So we start off with finding a comfortable sitting position. Make sure your back is upright and the rest of the body relaxed. Okay, and the first phase of this meditation is the impurities of the body meditation, learning to let go of the body. And we start off with the hairs, all the hairs of the head, hairs of the body from head to toe. And today's theme is on gratitude, right? So we are going to be grateful to all the hairs. So every time you think of this patch of hair, a new patch of hair, then mentally we just thank the hairs. So the hairs have provided us maybe some kind of shelter or cover, so we thank them. Every time new patch of hair, then we thank the hairs. So the thanking of the hairs, this labeling is part of right thought. And the image of the hairs, part of right mindfulness, mindfulness of the body. And the repetition, every time we repeat, thanking the hairs, That is part of right effort. And we can also observe whether the mind is it getting calmer or agitated. If it's getting calmer, it's a sign we're on the right track. Whenever there's a reduction in craving, there should be a correlation with this mind settling down. And if the mind is quite settled down, then we can think of impermanence, and that is the minimum requirement for insight once the mind is at a baseline level. So all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the hairs growing and falling, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can also observe the arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. So the 5 aggregates are this form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So whatever we do, there will always be these 5 aggregates operating. So when we generate the image, what is the form? So form is actually defined as the 4 elements, the earth, fire, wind, and water elements. Earth is the hard and soft sensations, fire is hot and cold, wind is the movements, and water are the moist or dry sensations. So when we generate an image, are there any changes in the sensations? What are the sensations traveling to the thought? How does these sensations move? Yeah? And there are also feelings. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feelings. It can be the sensations, it can be the image. Whether you like the hair, you don't like the hair, when it's young, when it's old, when it's falling off, what kind of feelings each time. And there are perceptions. So perceptions are basically based on past memories, the experiences, the words you learned before, and you try to make sense of that image. So the image that you produce, where does it come from? Most probably some sort of memory. You have seen the hairs before, so you kind of generate these images based on your memory. So that's perception. What kind of color, what kind of shape, the length. So that's all based on perception. And we have this thing called mental formation. Every time you generate a new image, that is a new mental formation. And lastly, we have this thing called consciousness. Consciousness is basically your awareness. And if let's say you are aware of my sound, then you're using your ear consciousness. If you're aware of that image, then that's using the mind door consciousness. So we have 6 senses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, and we have the 6 kinds of consciousness based on these 6 senses. So every time we keep generating this image of the hairs growing and falling in between 2 images, what happens to the consciousness? Is the intensity of the consciousness the same, the quality the same? Is it remaining at the same location? Is it jumping around? So we slowly investigate the rising and passing of these 5 aggregates using the looping of this birth and death image of the hairs. So you can do 1 at a time. If you're multitasking, you can do 5 or do a few at the same time. Because when you think of 1, all 5 will be there actually. And the idea is to have detachment, so is to see how far you can let go of the mind, how far you can detach from the 5 aggregates. It is because of clinging to the 5 aggregates, that's why we suffer. When we cling to our hairs, we cling to this, cling to that, we're actually clinging to the 5 aggregates, and we are not really clinging to the hairs. Okay, then we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Can we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death? And next we can think of the nails, fingernails and toenails, and we have gratitude to them, so we thank the nails. And when we thank the nails, we can also observe the state of mind. So we switch from this vipassana phase to a samatha phase again. So the thanking part is the samatha phase. How does the mind differ? Which one is more detached? How does a detached mind feel like? Okay, so now we are going to now add some insight. We're going to reflect all these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, death. So you think of them growing and falling, growing and falling, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can also observe the arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. And we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? So next we can think of the teeth, all the teeth inside the mouth. May they, or we thank the teeth, show gratitude towards the teeth. And all these teeth go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So we think of the teeth growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can observe the arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death? So next part of the body, we are going to think of our skin. We wish all the skin from head to toe and thank all the skin and be grateful to all the skin. Every patch of skin, we thank them. Okay, and all this skin go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the skin growing and falling, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can observe the arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. And we can ask ourselves, are this skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through birth and death? Okay, and the next part of meditation, we are moving to the sublime states. But before we switch, we familiarize ourselves with the 4 elements. 4 element sensations. So do some grounding in the 4 elements And for this routine, there is no need to visualize. So from now onwards, no need to visualize, just purely feeling of sensations. So the four elements are again the earth, fire, wind, and water sensations. Earth is the hot and soft sensations, fire hot and cold, wind is the movement, and water moist or dry sensations. So these are just general guidelines. Whatever you feel appearing, don't have to crack your brain trying to fit which category. So what we need to do is just wish those sensations, being grateful to them. Every time a new sensation appears, then we'll be grateful to this element. So there's no need to control, do not purposely generate any sensation, let it appear naturally by themselves. Our only job is to just thank them. Every sensation appear, new learning experience. You learn something new about yourself. You haven't learned before. So new sensation appear, thank you. New sensation appear, thank you. So the more gratitude we generate, the mind should also calm down to this baseline level. And we can take note of this restricted form of gratitude, still within the confines of the body. And we take note of this emotion. And now we're going to cultivate a boundless kind of gratitude. And we're going to have this appreciation towards all beings, above, below, and all across. So there is no need to visualize, no need to push the mind. Let it expand naturally by itself. And now we're going to reflect on this non-discriminative kind of appreciation. All beings, regardless of these winners or losers. And there's this, I think, probably like a war going on now. Some people may think they are winning, some people are losing something. Even in the sports, SEA Games or ASEAN Games, some people win, some people lose. Regardless of the situation, every moment, all parties they gain some new experience. And likewise, whenever we experience a new sensation, we can also have gratitude, show appreciation towards all beings. So in the mind, we try not to dramatize any stories, come back to the grounding, the foundation of the body, all the elements, sensation, doesn't matter is it inside the body or outside the body, as long as you can detect something evidential, that is your mindfulness. New sensation appear, rejoice, new sensation appear, appreciative joy. Appreciation towards all beings. If all the conditions are right, you have the right thought, right effort, right mindfulness, everything, it will trigger this right concentration. So normally this third sublime state, this appreciative joy, will synchronize with the third level of concentration, and it will manifest in the form of the emotion of happiness. So regardless of what you experience, keep on having this appreciative joy, appreciation of all the experiences with all beings. Okay, and now we're going to add some wisdom, some insight, and we're going to reflect all beings will eventually be separated from what they have gained. So likewise ourselves, every moment, all those sensations, they don't stay with us 24/7, they come and go every moment. So we're going to keep reflecting on impermanence. So the same formula, observe the evidence, sensations, and the labeling this time is impermanence. Okay, let's say that joy and happiness start to fade away. This combination of appreciation and impermanence may lead one to like a sense of fullness. Normally that's the perception of infinite consciousness. And regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting on impermanence, treat everything else as a distraction or a byproduct. If the mind is getting calmer, one can also reflect on the 5 aggregates, the impermanent nature of the 5 aggregates. When the sensation appears, there are also the 5 aggregates, and you can investigate them one by one, or 5 at a time, or a few at a time. And the main idea is detachment. Okay, before we conclude this session, same gentle reminder, as long as we maintain this boundless sublime state in all our activities, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, then this is the noblest conduct. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session. Informally, still can generate right thought. Okay, any questions or issues from anyone? Okay, if there's no issues, then we do the dedication chant. Dedicating merits. Akasata ca bhumata devanaga mahitika punyang tang anumoditva cirang rakhantu loka sasanang etavata ca amhehi sabadang punya sabadang sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe sata anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Dedication of merits to departed. Idang vinyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyadayo Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo Satang samagamo hotu Yawa nibbana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and that's the end. Any announcements from Terence? If not, then good night and see you all next week.